Alright, so today I'm going to go over a cross product example problem. So we can start by writing down two vectors, A and B, and we want to find C, which is equal to A cross B. So our first step is we're going to want to write down our general formula, C equals A cross B. Our next step is to plug in our vector values for A and B. So for A, we plug in 4i plus 7j, and then for B, we plug in 6i plus 4k. And now that we plug these into the formula, all we gotta do is distribute and multiply. So we distribute the 4i into the other bracket. So we multiply 4i by 6i and by 4k, and then we do the same for 7j. So if we distribute, it'll be 4i times 6i and then 4i times 4k. And then we distribute the 7j, so it'll be 7j times 6i and then 7j times 4k. And I just want to note that there is an implicit cross sign in between brackets. So 4i times 6i is the same as 4i cross 6i. It's just implied. And then the next thing we're going to want to do is just separate the amplitudes from unit vectors. This will just make it easier for us to determine the resultant direction for each unit vector. So if we separate the amplitudes, it's going to be 4 times 6 and I cross I, and then 4 times 4 I cross k, and we can see we just do that for the other two as well. Now, the next logical step is a pretty simple step. We just compute the amplitude values. So we just do 4 times 6 equal to 24, 4 times 4 equal to 16, 7 times 6 equal to 42, and 7 times 4 equals to 28. So now we can replace these values, just cleaning up what we have, and we can see that we need to now compute the cross products for the unit vectors. So there's two ways for us to compute these resulting unit vectors. We can use the right-hand rule or the trick that I explained in the last video. But below, I'm just going to leave a diagram to help us use the right-hand rule. So we should start by writing down our expression that we have. And we can first compute that I cross I is equal to 0. And that's because the general formula for A cross B is equal to AB sine phi. And so if we do I cross I, we can note that the angle between them is going to be equal to 0 because it's the same unit vector. And you can see that in the image above. And then we can just use the right-hand rule to find the resultant vectors for the other three. So we get negative j, negative k, and I. And if you don't know how we use the right-hand rule, you can check out my last video. Also, you can use the trick, which is in my last video if you don't know how to use the trick. But now that we got the resultant unit vectors, we can just write down this expression here. But to change it into a better looking form, we can also just move the negatives over to the amplitudes. And we get that final expression there, and that's just equal to the C vector.